You just crossed over into the twilight zone.
Welcome to the Strange Sessions with Jose Barrera. Tonight we're going to dive into ancient aliens in America, and later on we're going to splash into alien hybrids. Are we of extraterrestrial origin, or is it just lately a new thing the government's been doing, experimenting with our DNA and alien DNA? Or has the aliens been doing this the whole time, and that's why they've been abducting people, and that's why we have the stories we have today? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight, so relax, lay back, and get ready for the strange to be delivered to your ears.
They predate any known civilization in the Americas. Mysterious sightings. There are things in this country that nobody's even dreamed of. An unexplained phenomenon.
But when you see radar tracings, ground-based eyewitness reports, there's something going on here.
Is there more to America's past than is found in our history books? And could the mysterious stories and relics found throughout the land be evidence that the American continent has extraterrestrial origins? America is really a very mysterious place with all kinds of strange legends. And some of the explanations may have to do with extraterrestrials. Millions of people around the world believe we have been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. What if it were true? Did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And if so, can the proof be found in America? Stephenville, Texas. On the cloudless evening of January 8, 2008, more than a dozen people, including a police officer and a private pilot, spot a luminous spherical object floating silently across the sky.
It was very intense, bright light, and they spanned a wide area.
It was so fast when it took off, you know, and it made not a sound.
Radar reports released by the FAA confirm an object without a transponder exactly where ground observers see the UFO. The January 8, 2008 encounter of a giant UFO over Stephenville, Texas is particularly interesting. A number of people saw this giant glowing ball of light moving through the sky. It was picked up on the radar. According to reports, for 2 hours, the UFO slowly moved some 70 miles across the Texas countryside. Military aircraft are in the air nearby. But curiously, radar records show that they initially made no overt action towards the unidentified object.
The first government report said that this was not anything except for some bizarre optical phenomena such as a reflection of light in the sky. But when you see people who have radar tracings, ground-based eyewitness reports, that's not a reflection. There's something going on here. Stephenville, Texas certainly implies that UFOs are a commonplace occurrence in America and the military stays out of the way.
In the United States, there are over 6,000 UFO sightings reported every year, more than any other country in the world. But why? Is there an explanation for such a high number of UFO sightings? Could aliens have a special interest in America? According to ancient astronaut theorists, not only are aliens watching over North America today, but in fact, they have been visiting us for hundreds and possibly even thousands of years. And they claim the evidence can be found in the strange sites, structures, and monuments that lie in every corner of the continent.
America is really a very mysterious place with all kinds of strange legends. So trying to put all of these things together in context shows us that we're living in a very unusual continent full of magic and mystery.
Serpent Mound in Adams County, Ohio. The Kivas at Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Wyoming. Many Native American tribes say that at these ancient sites and countless others, entities that they call star beings came down from the sky to teach their ancestors.
To the Zuni people and other tribes, there's a spiritual connection with the star beings. They're the ones that actually rule the universe or the world that we're on. If you look at the petroglyphs, there's a lot of references to those type of entities.
According to tribes like the Zuni and Hopi, stories of these otherworldly visitations exist not only in the oral traditions passed down from their ancestors, but also in petroglyphs carved into rock all across America. On the Zuni Pueblo in New Mexico, there are literally thousands of ancient carvings that most outsiders have never laid eyes on. And the Zuni claim that some of these petroglyphs depict visitations from star beings.
There's definitely evidence that aliens visited North America in a distant past, and there are petroglyphs throughout this part of the country carved by ancient Americans that depict just that. What can you tell me about this petroglyph right here?
Well, you know, if you can see on top of it where maybe a head would be, it's kind of eroded off. But on the next part of it, there's four compartments, look like extension of something sticking out.
Yeah, almost like legs.
It could be something that they saw in the air.
Isn't there a legend that beings visited on top of this mountain?
Oh yes, on all of the mesas.
In conjunction with all the stories of star people descending from the sky in fiery shields and things like this, when I see a pattern like that, I always think, what if this is something that they saw and then they carved onto a rock?
And a lot of these are sacred drawings. They're just not graffiti like a lot of people say they are.
No, never.
There's no such thing as that in those days. Look at that triangle up there.
And you've got the dots around it that have been carved into the rock that remind me like stars.
Could the ancient people in this part of America really have been trying to depict encounters with alien spacecraft?
There are legends and myths all around the world that can be interpreted as having been visits by extraterrestrials, and many think that such stories don't exist here in the United States. But the fact is that there are things in this country that nobody's even dreamed of.
According to ancient astronaut theorists, there is evidence that otherworldly beings were not only witnessed by Native Americans, but also by the European colonists. And curiously, one of the earliest UFO sightings reported in the colonies occurred in an area that the local Wampanoag Nation claimed was a point of contact with star beings. The Hockomock Swamp, southeastern Massachusetts. Located 25 miles south of Boston, in and around the suburban town of Bridgewater, This vast wetland is infamous for being the heart of the Bridgewater Triangle. According to Native American legends, this 200 square mile region has been a hotbed of UFO sightings dating back to before Columbus arrived in the New World.
Within the Bridgewater Triangle, a huge amount of interesting paranormal activity has been reported, including very high numbers of UFO sightings. Some people speculate that maybe it's the presence of the Hockomock Swamp. The very name Hockomock means place where evil spirits dwell. European colonists settled this area in the 17th century, but the stories of paranormal activity here go back long before that time. Time and time again, we see stories about beings that live in the sky, flying canoes, what are apparently spaceships that land, people that get out and interact with the Native Americans.
On May 10th, 1760, in this same area where Native Americans say star beings interacted with humans, European colonists reported seeing mysterious lights in the sky. The account appeared in a publication that was read throughout the English-speaking world called the Gentleman's Magazine.
According to historical records, at 10 a.m., a sphere of fire appeared that emitted a light bright enough to cast a shadow in bright sunlight. And this object was reported to be seen not only in Bridgewater, but also in Roxbury, over 30 miles away. Now that's interesting to me because the fact that people in two different cities reported seeing the same thing at the same time, to me says that they really saw something.
It was seen by a huge number of people, and one observer remarked that the sound that this giant ball of light made was heard more in the middle of its travel than at the beginning, which I think is a very interesting detail that does correlate to some extent with more modern UFO reports.
The Bridgewater sighting of 1760 is just one of many incredible events that took place in colonial America. It was mysterious, it was the frontier. Something was up there in the sky way before any powered flight had been invented by modern humanity.
Is it possible that the strange lights seen over the Bridgewater Triangle were produced by the same alien beings that exist in Native American legend? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and claim that a recent archaeological find suggests that extraterrestrials have not only been visiting America from the time of our earliest known civilizations, but even centuries before recorded history began. Western Nevada, 2013. On the west side of the dried-up Winnemucca Lake, researchers take samples from a layer of white carbonate covering petroglyphs carved into limestone boulders. Radiocarbon tests performed by the University of Colorado Boulder reveal that the petroglyphs were etched between 10,500 and 14,800 years ago, making them the oldest petroglyphs ever found in North America.
Winnemucca Lake in Nevada is the site of petroglyphs that date all the way back to 8,000 BC. That is amazing because right here in America, we now have absolute proof of a civilization that predates the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia by over 3,000 years, minimum. And there's nothing else like it.
Looking at some of these petroglyphs, you've got to wonder if these aren't being drawn by early Americans who are interacting with extraterrestrials and then drawing what they think they see.
We just heard about star beings that rule the world. Wow, it's all starting to make sense now, huh? Who's our God really? Who gave us our knowledge? Why are we here? I have a feeling it's something totally sci-fi, don't you? You know, like awesomely entertaining. Is life more spectacular than a sci-fi movie we see today? Like you see on sci-fi on cable, or maybe one of your favorite horror movies. You know, from the things I've heard, it's just as scary as watching Freddy Krueger, don't you think? Or are they just mirror images, just beaming from our past knowledge? I had a feeling that the Bible was just half the story, and they're not telling us the rest. Is Jesus an alien hybrid, extraterrestrial, that used to walk among us thousands of years ago? Is our generation alien hybrids today that walk on this earth as we speak? Dr. David Jacobs will be next, talking about the secret government alien program to disassemble human population into alien hybrids. Coming up next on The Strange Sessions with Jose Barrera. Here's Dr. David Jacobs.
I began to think that the process of hybridization, which I had envisioned before as primarily taking sperm and eggs and then altering the embryo or the zygote, and then leading to this sort of a bell-shaped curve of part of them look alien, part of them look human, most of them look in the middle. That was probably true, but not the whole story. And then I began to realize that what they were doing is that they were adding DNA from hybrids to the sperm and egg, and they were getting a skewed bell-shaped curve that was looking more and more like humans. And if you do this enough time, you just get beings who look more and more human-like, more and more human. You get a refining of the species in a sense. And that apparently is what has been happening. Although how the process, I'm still a little bit unclear of the process, and there were some very pointed questions asked about this once by a person who knew what he was talking about that I couldn't answer. And so I don't know all the medical procedures that occur here in that sense. But I do know that there is a spectrum of hybrids who look mainly alien and look mainly human, and some look really, really human. Then people would begin to describe to me how they would be taken into a room. These are abductees, and their attention would be directed to a screen-like device. They all look up at the screen, and the person will say, and I've written a couple of these kinds of events up, although I heard many of them. The person will see a picnic, for example. And at the picnic, there'll be people who are playing ball and who are grilling and who are standing around talking this and that. And they'll hear in their mind's eye, in their mind's ear, "Can you tell the difference between you and us?" And the person will look carefully at the screen and say, "No." Everybody looks the same to me, And they'll say, "See? Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that excellent? Soon we will all be together. Soon we will be here and we will all be living together. Isn't that wonderful?" Or they will see, here's another case, it's a group shot of all sorts of people, like a high school shot of all the class on steps, that sort of thing. And they'll say, "Can you pick out us among you here?" And the person will look and try to figure it out and say, no, I can't. And they'll say, "See, isn't that wonderful? Soon we will all be together." And I began to hear this a lot by people who were not aware of anybody else's testimony or anything like that, or, who were just saying that, and who didn't really understand the meaning of what it was either. And then people would say, then these beings would tell them soon there's going to be a big change. There'll be a big change, and you're going to be a very important part of the change, and you're going to have a job to do, and you'll be very pleased to do it. And to the abductees who don't know what they're talking about. But this will happen soon. Everything's going to happen soon. It's going to be happening soon. No, that's the change. We're going to have a change. The change is coming soon. Well, I begin, when you hear things for the first time, you always put it on the back burner waiting for validation from other people who are unaware of the testimony. Well, so the first few times I heard this, you just blow it off. You just think, well, I'll wait. If I never hear it again, there is no change, But I began to hear it over and over again from a wide variety of people. Something is happening in the future. Some change was going to happen. They had some role in the future. This was going to happen. They began to convince me, because the first time I heard it, it came out of the blue, and the second time I heard it, it came out of the blue. I mean, it sounded like I was leading them to it. I didn't even believe it had happened in the first place. So, because you have to wait for confirmation. So you don't. It's not like I'm leading people. It's like they're leading me. I instituted controls for that eventually, which I can tell you about if you want. They're kind of fun controls, but just to show you how it doesn't work the way people think it works. But the point is that after a while, I began to think, well, maybe there is going to be something happening in the future. Maybe this is leading to something. And I was realizing at this time that we're not dealing with an experiment here. That this is not a situation where people are just being put on a table and looked at and say, what's this, what's that, and you pull off somebody's arm and look inside their body and see what's in there, It's not like that. That this is, in fact, a program. And as a program, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it is goal-directed. They are doing this for a reason, and this is a global phenomenon. And the amount of time and energy and material and personnel that are involved in this program is fantastic. Unbelievable. Literally beyond imagination. And I'm getting letters from around the world, people having these experiences, so as is Bud Hawkins and all other abduction researchers who are known. Then people began to be much more specific about what they would be doing in the future. And a lot of what they were doing was crowd control. Standing on a sidewalk saying, move along, it'll be okay, don't worry, everything is alright, just keep moving, move in this direction, move that way. And I had a whole bunch of people telling me that this is what they're going to be doing. And I'm talking to a person who has a PhD in English, telling me, well, that's what she's going to be doing. She's going to be standing on a corner directing people. And I'm talking to a person who is a junior high school, middle school dropout, telling me the same exact story. Well, they'll be standing directing people. They don't know particularly why, but they have to. This is what they know that they'll be doing. Plus a whole variety of other things. Those are just an example. So people would be saying these things like they'd be doing crowd control work, of all things to think of. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why don't they envision themselves in the future as being an ambassador, or something that's that would be obviously some psychological thing that they would do, which would enhance their role in this new change or whatever. But in fact, they'd be doing mundane things and helping with abductions and helping and doing this and doing that and all sorts of other things. And it was hard to imagine, but I began to realize that this was a program, if you were to believe what these beings were saying to the abductees, or them telling it to me, that this was a program of integration into the society. That they were integrating into the society and they would be looking like us, just like in science fiction. Just exactly what I don't want to hear. It goes all the way back to if you ever think this is science fiction, or if you ever think that this is just a matter of popular culture, people are picking it up, well, this is it. But this is where the evidence led, and that has got to be emphasized. It didn't lead in 1,000 different directions, as it should have if it were psychological. It didn't lead back to the importance of the individual, as it would have in psychological cases. It didn't lead into all sorts of crazy areas. all the stories, all of them that I heard, led to one direction, and that this was, in fact, an integration program. People filling in pieces of the puzzle, and it was leading in one direction, a direction I did not like and did not want to hear. Now, the problem is this. From the beginning, from the Barney and Betty Hill case, there has been one constant among many. But the one constant I'm gonna focus on now is the constant that Barney and Betty Hill said, that they made a left-hand turn down the road and then went a mile, and then they knew that they had to sort of close their eyes and go like that. In other words, they were being neurally controlled from afar. That is the case with every single abduction event ever recorded, period, that has been investigated. Now, the one exception here is Travis Walton. I'm sorry, the one exception here is the Antonio Villas-Boas case, and that was an uninvestigated case. But, and that was in 1957. But the fact is that that is a constant in 100% of the abduction cases. Without that, there would be no abduction phenomenon. People would indeed reach under their pillow and get out their Magnum 45 and blow their heads off. They would call the police. They would, they would do that. They'd run, whatever it is that they would do. There would be no abduction phenomenon. So that must be, and that is in place in every single abduction. Every single one. Now, the point here is that if these beings integrate into the society who look just like you and I, they have that ability, and we do not. That makes us inferior, and it makes them superior. When you look through history and you see technologically superior people confronting tribal societies, for example, it is not the tribal societies that survive and flourish. It is the ones who have the better weapons, generally speaking, and you see the extinction of tribes throughout the world over the years. And the point is that this is one of those instances where you have a superior, technologically, not necessarily physically technologically, although there is that, but biologically superior, neurologically superior, that is confronting a neurologically inferior society, and that makes this a catastrophic event. Even if it is anecdotal evidence, and I understand that this is anecdotal evidence, it's human testimony, it's human memory retrieved, the testimony retrieved through hypnosis administered by amateurs. I understand that. I understand how weak this is.
Do you ever wish you were wrong?
All the time. All the time. I went to a down period where I was very, very, very burned out, and I was very depressed over various things that happened in my life, and I just couldn't do this research anymore. I would have sessions with people, and I dread that they would actually come over and I'd have to do it and all that. And this went on for a long time. And then as I came out, I remember doing a session with somebody, and this is after I'd already done it for 15 years. And after 15 years, I remember doing the session, and I thought to myself, this really is happening. This really is happening. It's like this. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I realized that, but it's something that dawned on me again. It's so easy to think that this isn't. It's so easy to slip into this idea of, no, this can't possibly be happening. I was actually slipping into that. But this really is happening. As crazy as it sounds, as off the wall as it sounds, this really is happening. It is frightening. It's terrorizing in a sense. It is not something I ever expected to hear. I never expected to go in this direction, let alone leading people in this direction. I would like to lead them into the direction where I become the king of the world and the superior person. That would be good. Yeah. But in fact, it's not. It was unimaginable to me when I started doing this research what this was all about. Just not imaginable. I could not have ever imagined where I'd be today with this phenomenon. And I have kicked and screamed all the way through as I have slowly moved people said, oh, well, hybrids are here forever now, and I just blew all that stuff off. And now I think to myself, in my own research, where I can have control of it, and I know my weaknesses, and I know the weaknesses of the methodology, and I know the strengths of the methodology, I now can say to myself that this is an integration program and that hybrids will be integrating into the society and might be doing it now. And I can't get away from that. I can't rationalize that in any psychological way.
You just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Hi, this is Jose Barrera. Did you just hear what this doctor was talking about? He was talking about the truth. You know, the truth is out there in a lot of shapes and forms, and you just got one giant load into your eardrum about alien hybridization into the human race, and how the government or some type of higher level of the government is phasing out our world population to alien hybrids. Why? I don't know. But you just heard from Dr. David Jacobs about the secret government programs of alien hybridization. Now we're going to stop here and we're going to talk a little bit about the whole situation of alien hybrids. Are they smarter? Are they better than us? Are we alien hybrids? Was Jesus an alien hybrid? Now, we have a lot of stories about these angels coming from heaven, and it sounds like they were coming from the sky. So we know nowadays that the sky leads to space, so heaven must be what the ancient ancestors used to call space, or it may be some other galaxy. But I'm thinking that what they drew as angels, and we mistakenly thought that these were human beings that flew with wings on their back. Maybe these people was talking about describing wings on their back, meaning that they could fly, and that doesn't mean that they actually had wings on their back. So that's one. And two is, maybe these angels not only created Jesus, but they created us. I don't know, it's pretty confusing thing, so I'm gonna end the show on that. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have a beautiful night, day, evening, or whatever. This is Jose Barrera with the Strange Sessions.